What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/am I the butthole. I can't stop doing it. Thank you so much for being here today. And before we jump into today's stories, we've got a couple of cheeky member updates. Zoe Barber with a join, Truecaller21 with a rejoin, Melanie Saber with a join, and Georgia with a join. Thank you so much for your love, your support, and your time, you cheeky so-and-sos. And let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. This story is from Big Throwaway. Am I the arsehole for refusing to pay for Nephew's schooling after he stole from me? My nephew doesn't know that I have some money saved away for his schooling. Not a ton, about 40k. It's not a college fund, just some mutual funds I have. My brother and I agreed not to tell him until he graduated college because we wanted him to work hard and get scholarships rather than rely on the money. I don't have any children of my own, so this is my way of looking out for him since my brother hasn't been able to save up much. Well, until he started stealing from me. This summer, he comes back home and stays with me occasionally to be closer to work. He would steal from my wallet whenever he came over and steal $20 to $40. At first I didn't notice, but then I withdraw exactly $200, and the next day after he came over, $40 went missing. Some of my jewelry also went missing, and I realized what might be happening. So I installed a hidden camera off Amazon and saw him stealing from my wallet. I contacted my brother and let him know what was going on and that I'm no longer paying anything towards his loans. My brother is furious with his son and at first tried to deny it until I sent him the recording, and he admitted he needed money. I'm pissed at my brother because he revealed I was planning to give 40k to him, and I'm no longer doing so due to the stealing. He begged, sent flowers, asked grandma, my mum, to ask me for forgiveness. I'm firm and tell him no. Am I the arsehole for not giving him the 40k now that I caught him stealing? Now this is a pretty simple one for me because this is the consequences of your own actions. He stole from you and took your money, so yeah, absolutely keep that money for yourself to even consider paying for your nephew's schooling. I mean, 40,000 you say isn't a lot, but it's a significant amount of money and would have helped nephew massively. But you know, as I said at the start, this is the consequences of his own actions, and he only seems apologetic now because he's been caught out after your brother revealed that you had this 40k for him. So absolutely not the arsehole to me, and enjoy the money. And Loudon2 says, not the arsehole. Here's what I'm sure happened. Your brother confronted your nephew about stealing and he demanded he make it up to you. The nephew couldn't care less and think what he did was fine. At that point, your brother probably brought up the money you had saved and the nephew realized he was screwing himself out of 40k, so then he suddenly wanted to make it up to you. He wants the money. He is not genuinely remorseful. Think of it as free money and treat yourself. And the Dagman says, not the arsehole, he's only sorry he got caught. He's not sorry for betraying your trust. Keep the money, put it towards your retirement. And Jeepers Creepers 74 says, not the arsehole, thank goodness all that money was still in your name in some mutual funds. If your nephew was stealing from you, who wasn't he cheating in his life? Losing out on the money is a tough lesson for him to learn, but a lot easier than jail, which is where he was headed. And Nit Sanity says, not the arsehole, your money, your decision. Did he steal from his dad as well? If you want to do something good with that money, I would locate 4 worthy kids from your local town or city and give them the money towards their loans. And Novel Ad said, not the arsehole, he's 21 years old according to the reply and seems to only be sorry now he got caught and realised how severe the consequences are. 40k is a lot of money, especially at that age. He openly disrespected you in such a way. This is terrible. If he needed money for something important, food, medicine, etc., he should have asked, not stolen it. And apparently, he has done so repeatedly. Hell no. Now, what do you guys make of this one? What would you do if you was in that situation and you had that 40k? Would you ever still consider giving it to the nephew? Could they make it up to you in any way? Let me know your thoughts and we'll move on to the next one. And our next story is from Unusual Reception 738. Am I the arsehole for insisting that my brother and his girlfriend not wear gross clothes in my car? I, 28 female, have a very sensitive nose. I can't do perfume. I tell guys not to wear cologne on a date. I can't be around cigarette or pot smoke or I start gagging. My whole family knows this and for the most part are very supportive. This weekend, my brother, 24 male, called me up at 2 AM because he and his girlfriend, 22 female, had missed the last train out of the city because they met up with some people at a bar and wound up going back to their place for a bit. He asked me to come get him. My apartment is 40 minutes outside the city, and our parents, who he lives with, are about an hour away. I told him to get an Uber because if they reeked of alcohol, cigarettes and weed, I didn't want them in my car. He said it would be too expensive, promised they didn't smell, and begged me to come. I told him that as long as they didn't smell, I would come get him, but that I would be prepared to leave him if he did. I got to the address about an hour later. They came out and it was clear that they were both drunk. My brother went to hug me and I could immediately smell weed on him. I started retching, told him it wasn't going to work and to call Uber. "We showered, there's no way you're smelling anything, it's all in your head," he said to me. Apparently their solution was to shower in these people's apartments, thinking that would get rid of the tobacco and weed smell on their clothes. I told them to call an Uber and got back into my car. He banged on the window. I told him that he wasn't getting in my car like that. I told him I'd give him half the money for an Uber and I was leaving. He told me to just roll the windows down. I told him I didn't want that in my car. He said, "I showered. These are the only clothes I have. I can't ride home naked." That gave me an idea. I opened my trunk, grabbed 2 blankets and 2 trash bags. I told him to put their clothes in the bags and cover up with the blankets. His girlfriend handed it back to me and said, "Fuck that, I'll walk," and walked away. My brother told me I was out of my mind and it was all in my head. I reached in my wallet, pulled out $50 and said to call an Uber. He handed it back, told me to hold up and ran after his girlfriend. They came back and asked if they could sit him in the back with the windows open. I told him I wouldn't be able to stand it for an hour. So they begrudgingly stripped, put their clothes in the bags, and I tied them off and threw them in the trunk. I drove them to our parents' house in silence and dropped them off without a thank you. My brother's girlfriend unfriended me on Facebook. He and she are not speaking, and my mum is furious with me, saying that I embarrassed them and I was being overly sensitive. She says I should have called her so she could have gotten them. My mum goes to bed at 9, so I don't think she would have been thrilled. I feel bad that I put a condition on it, but I would not have been able to tolerate them being in my car otherwise. Edit, I've been asked some info into my post that I answered in the comments. My reaction to smell is very extreme. I retch, I gag, I throw up, my eyes water, my stomach churns, I get migraines, my heart races, I get chills that make everything else worse. I could not have driven home with that stench in my car. We would not have been safe. Everyone who is voting that I'm an asshole seems to think that I forced this girl to take her clothes off to punish her or humiliate her. There is no part of me that enjoyed asking my brother to give up his clothes to get into my car. I had no smile on my face and I apologise to them for being so sensitive to smell. I pushed for the Uber. I even offered to cover most of it. It would have been $65 for them to get home. They didn't want to get in an Uber when they were in that condition. I was embarrassed to ask them to strip, but there was no way for me to make it an hour with them in the car in those clothes. I did not tell them to get naked. I told them to put their clothes in the bag. They went behind the car, I had my back to them and was keeping my distance. My brother handed me the bags and I tied them up and threw them in the trunk without inspecting them. The blankets were a good size, so all you could really see is both were barefoot and removed their shirts and pants. I do not know if they left their underwear on or were naked under there. Any intimate bits were covered. And we'll start straight away with KFNNNP saying, pressuring your brother's drunk girlfriend to strip off and get into your car when she already made it clear she wasn't comfortable with it was a pretty crappy thing for both of you and your brother to do, to be honest. I'm not at all surprised she unfriended you and isn't speaking to your brother. And you trying to play the victim here because she didn't thank you is not a great look. Everyone sucks here. And Moonwitch says everyone sucks here, them for not making good choices, but to be honest, you sound like a lot. I also have sensory issues, and to be honest, sometimes you just have to be an adult and try to deal with it. I gag daily, sometimes for no reason at all. Changing my child's diapers is a nightmare, but the world is not going to cater to your needs. Best to get used to that. And Drunk on Martini says, you're the arsehole because you should have just said no in the first place if you knew there was a very good chance you'd strand them anyway. And making someone strip to get into your car is just disgusting and violating. I don't blame that poor girl for not wanting anything to do with you anymore, lol. The smell of bare ass on your blankets isn't as gross as smoke to you. And Jeepers Creepers 74 says everyone sucks here, your brother knows you and should have ponied up for an Uber or not missed the train or not gone into the city at all if he was low on cash. There are so many ways they could have prevented this. Even calling you at 2 AM for a ride when you're 40 minutes away is an arsehole move. but demanding people ride naked in your car is just too much. I can see how the girlfriend felt she had no choice at the time, and once she sobered up felt pretty violated. Surely you are in situations in public that you cannot control where you just have to grin and bear it sometimes. Here, these people had showered and were willing to ride with the windows down. That should have been enough. And Elderberry Filler says, not the arsehole. You said their stench would make you sick and they lied to get you there. You were nice to offer half the Uber. And Firmly That Guy says, everyone sucks here. For the record, you more than them. They should have had a better ride situation sorted out, but frankly, you making them strip to get in your car is next level. It sucks you have sensory issues, but that is so far over the top it's scary. Roll the windows down. And Granny Wine says, everyone sucks here, your mum was right, you should have just called her. Instead you embarrassed and demeaned your brother and his girlfriend in public. That is never going to go over well. As someone myself who has sensory issues, mine literally send me into an asthma-like attack where perfume is concerned. I can empathise with you, but only to a point. Making any person, especially a female, strip on a public street for a ride home is never acceptable. You at the very least owe your brother's girlfriend an apology for that behaviour, and hopefully in the future no one will ever call you for helping a similar situation. And we'll have one more from Tingly Storm who says, not the arsehole. Sensory issues aside, it's your car. They don't have to deal with lingering smell that will have to be taken care of after. And I think we all know they won't do anything to make that up to you. It's no different from people asking others to take off their shoes when they visit. Now, factoring in those sensory problems of yours, your brother and his girlfriend are even bigger assholes because they already know you are very sensitive and they were hanging out in a place that reeked heavily of smoke and alcohol. The fact that you even agreed to help them in the first place should have meant they were willing to do your every bidding. Now, what would you do in this situation? Do you think OP did go too far or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from TrickRun6599. Am I the arsehole for favouring one of my twin nephews over the other, despite both twins telling me to stop? My sister, 36, has 4 teenage kids, all boys. The youngest 2 are a pair of fraternal twins, Alex and Brian, now 14. My sister has been regularly sending the twins over to my place whenever she needed a break since I moved near her 2 years ago. I, 26 female, do not have kids myself, but I love having them over. I'm particularly fond of them as I grew up babysitting the 4 boys for loads of spare cash. The only issue is that Alex is clearly my sister's favourite child, and everyone is aware of this. To be fair, he is the stereotypical good kid, extremely smart, good looking, well spoken and charismatic. Everyone loves him. Brian is more quiet, meek, less blessed in the looks department, but not a bad kid at all. But I seriously think there's a cruel streak in Alex. I caught Alex daring Brian to drink pee when they were 9. In quotes because Brian confessed that Alex threatened to cut him out of their parents' friend group if he didn't do it. I've personally heard Alex's horrible comments about Brian's weight, looks, intelligence, etc. when he thinks I can't hear them. Brian has also shared that Alex has been vandalising his belongings, spreading horrible rumours at school. My sister absolutely refuses to punish Alex or send him to any sort of therapist or professional who can help. She says it's just boys being boys, and it's not my place to override her parenting decisions. So I've been trying to balance out the favouritism while they are at my house. I usually ask Brian for his preferences in minor things, like picking out the dinner that I cook for them, the movies that we watch together. If Alex makes snide remarks, I shut it down immediately. But the more I speak up for Brian, the angrier Alex gets. It's gotten to the point where Brian just defers to Alex's preferences, and is asking me to get off this so that Alex doesn't take it out on him when they get home. I get where Brian is coming from, but I just can't let this go. My sister doesn't do anything about it. So, Reddit, am I the arsehole for consciously treating my nephews differently and not stopping even though they both want me to stop? Now let's break this one down a little bit, because I think this is going to be an everyone sucks here from my point of view, mainly because the mum of Alex and Brian is letting Alex get away with that, and she's playing favourites with her children as well, so she's definitely going to be the arsehole from that straight away in my point of view. Alex is obviously going to be an arsehole for his bullying behaviour towards his brother. Yes, but I'm afraid you would also be the arsehole as well in this situation because Brian told you to stop. And it's a tough one because I can see that you're trying to help Brian in some way, but just this isn't the way. By doing this, Brian's asked you to stop because he's obviously getting picked on when he gets home and it's making things worse for him. There's got to be a better way to deal with this, and maybe approach sister and talk about what's been going on, and you can see this behavior coming from Alex as well, and try and help Brian a different way, because at the moment I think you're just making it worse for him. And no, we shouldn't let bullies get away with this kind of behavior, but making it worse for Brian at the same time isn't going to help either. I remember having the same kind of mentality as Brian when I was younger and I was getting picked on in high school, and I didn't want to call my brothers because I knew my brother would have, done something pretty bad to my bully. In the end, I would have probably been in a worse situation because it would have been worse for me, and that was my thinking at the time. It may not have been, but that was my thinking at the time, and it's just not fair to Brian in this situation to me. But we'll move on to the comments to see what they say, and we'll start with Hey Demons, it's me, yeah, saying, your sister allowing Alex to treat Brian like this hurts both kids. It seems like none of Alex's actions ever have consequences. That doesn't bode well for adults. Your sister won't be able to boys will be boys away if/when he gets arrested. All that being said, it seems like at the end of the day, you are currently making Brian's life harder. He has asked you to stop. You should stop. Try to find other ways to help him. Definitely don't give up, but what you're doing right now isn't helping. Your heart is in the right place, so not the arsehole if you respect Brian's wishes here, but you would be the arsehole if you don't stop. Edit, as of right now, since everyone sucks here except for Brian, since you haven't stopped. And Demon said it better than I could. And Thinking Rose says, everyone sucks here except Brian. Your sister should be managing her children better, but she has 4 teenage boys. As someone who raised only 2 boys, I can feel her pain from here. Still, she wouldn't allow one child to bully another. Alex is a bully. He may grow out of it, he may not, but he's also only a kid and should have clear boundaries with proper consequences. And finally, you're the arsehole for continuing getting Brian bullied, and possibly worse now that you're showing him favoritism. You know this is causing him problems for him. Brian has asked you to stop. That's as close as he'll ever get to reporting his brother. If you really want to show Brian that you care, stop trying to show Alex that you prefer his brother. If you insist on doing nice things for Brian, do it in private. Ask him what some of his favourite things are while Alex isn't around, then buy it before they show up and announce how much you enjoy it and want to share with both of them. Yes, it's manipulative and deceitful, but when dealing with someone like Alex, that's the only option you have. And Amethyst Fire says, you're the arsehole, I get why you're doing this, but you're making a bad situation worse, in quotes. But the more I speak up for Brian, the angrier Alex gets. It's gotten to the point where Brian just defers to Alex's preferences and is asking me to get off this so that Alex doesn't take it out on him when they get home. And then says, pay very close attention to this right here. And Bam says, very, very soft, you're the arsehole, and only because Brian is asking you to stop. You're a wonderful person sticking up for him, you should continue, but you probably need to be more subtle about it. I think it can mean more than you know for Brian to know you're on his side, and being sympathetic ear for him can mean so much. And we'll have one more from American Girl saying, everyone sucks here except for Brian. You're an arsehole for favouring Brian, is causing him to get bullied even worse by Alex. Your sister is an arsehole for allowing one of her twins to be bullied by the other without intervening. And Alex is a bully, so thus an arsehole. Encourage Brian to make separate friends from Alex so his social life doesn't depend on Alex's approval. And maybe have the boys visit you separately so they get quality time as well as a break from each other. And now, what are your thoughts towards this story? What would you do if you was OP in this situation? Let me know your thoughts below and we'll move on to another story. And this next story comes from Hot Story 6936. Am I the arsehole for refusing to move in with my boyfriend, even though he bought us a house? 2 months ago, I, 25 female, found out that I was pregnant and I was devastated. I've always been a planner and had an idea of how my life was going to go. I wanted to get my PhD, be married and have a house before I had children. I decided to go through with the pregnancy and with therapy and time have started releasing some of my control issues and warming up to the idea that life is spontaneous and unexpected, so I can better adjust to the curveballs life and children are sure to throw at me. My boyfriend of 3 years, 28 male, has been trying to put band-aids on these problems instead. I explained to him that I've been trying to develop coping mechanisms for these unexpected moments so I can better handle them in the future. But he has been insistent that it's just harder for me and that I should just check off my boxes before the baby arrives. He's been trying to convince me to buy a house for 2 months. We already rent together and I've been turning him down. We don't have the money to buy our dream home, and that's what I want, not a fixer-upper or a house we only kind of like. A week ago, my boyfriend took me out for dinner, and then go see a surprise. He had led me to a neighbourhood that is notorious in our area for being generally not the best, and showed me his surprise. A house. He bought a house that was being foreclosed on with a loan from his parents, a separate loan from his brother, and his entire savings. The house is in horrible condition and will need to be gutted before our baby comes. There's mould, the exterior is just awful, the landscaping has been neglected for years, all the carpets are stained and dirty, the hardwood is damaged, etc, etc. Even with all the fixes, I just don't like the house. It's not to my taste, it's not in a good area, I just dislike it. I sat on the partially dilapidated porch and just cried. This is not the house I wanted to welcome my baby in. I just can't pretend to like it. I can't pretend I think this was romantic. It was dumb. He wasted thousands of dollars on a house I don't even want to step foot in. I told him I would not be moving in with him. I said I would not drain my savings or take out more loans to redo the house. I told him off for making this massive decision against my will and without my consent. I said if he liked the house, he could sleep there, and I have not let him back into our place for the past week. My parents think that he was an idiot for spending so much money on a house, but think the idea is cute and I should appreciate the effort. My sister thinks it's cute, my brother thinks it's dumb. They are split on being mad that I'm ungrateful and understanding, where he was an idiot. Boyfriend's family has just been leaving hateful voicemails directed at me. My boyfriend has been alternating between furious and despondent. Am I the arsehole for refusing to move in with him after he bought me a house? The hell, absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. Who looks at this and thinks, oh, that's cute. That's not cute. That's a huge responsibility, an undertaking, and it sounds like he's bought an absolute money pit at the same time, in which you had no choice in it, in this huge decision in life, and you didn't get a say in it at all. Absolutely not the arsehole. I think I would have done the same as you in this situation. That's not cute at all to me. That's like you said, that's dumb. But Forgotten Troll says not the arsehole. Cute is when you ask your boyfriend to buy your favourite perfume and he comes back with a gigantic bottle because he didn't realise the little bottle lasts for months. Cute is not purchasing a dilapidated rundown house as a surprise without consulting you. Especially at last part. Big purchases like this need to have, buy-in from all adults in the household. Doing it himself is a very worrying form of controlling behaviour. Especially when he could have said, I have this amount of money in savings, my Uncle Earl offered me this other amount in money to help with the closing costs. My cousin Betty is an electrician and my Aunt Trudy is great with home repairs. I found this house, what do you think? You need some distance from this guy and a better father for your child. And Wrath of Pedro says, if the house isn't ready, then why would you move in? If the house is in rough neighbourhood, then why would you ever move in? He should have consulted you, but it's not the end of the world. He can do up the house and earn a rental income from it. You need to talk to him and explain this though. Ignoring him won't solve anything. And we'll have one more from Saluki Queen who says, whoa, I guess I could see how you'd think that would be romantic if you have zero idea of what goes into fixing up a house, haven't thought about the neighbourhood, haven't really thought about any of this through. Did no one at any point see what a shit show of an idea this was and stop him? Who makes a huge life decision like that without talking to their partner? He really didn't see how this was going to add to your stress, especially seeing how there's mold and it's falling to pieces. Like, hey honey, I know you're feeling stressed out from all the work, but here's more work. Unbelievable. I haven't had enough coffee to talk about how insane all that is. Not the arsehole. Congratulations on your baby, but I'm sorry about your nutso boyfriend. Now, what are your thoughts on today's collections of stories? Did you enjoy them? Let me know in the comments below if you have a moment of your time to share them. And if you do have a moment as well, could you please consider clicking that like button as it massively helps out this channel. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for being involved today, and I can never express the difference you make. So thank you for your love, time and support, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys. Much love.